Good afternoon and welcome to today's You Already Own It Cloud Office Hours, Planning an Intelligent Intranet. Today we are joined by Michael Van Cleve, one of our senior consultants in modern workspace here at Planet Technologies. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Michael. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please don't hesitate to throw those in the chat window. We will be monitoring that and making sure that we address any questions that you have. Thanks so much.
Sorry about that. I forgot to come off mute. Wow. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for everyone for joining us today. I do appreciate your valuable time, and hopefully we can get through this fairly quickly so that you guys can ask any questions that you might have so we can go further in depth. If for any reason you have a lengthy question or something that's more specific to your organization that you don't necessarily want to put out there for the entire group, feel free to reach out to us, Casey Clayton and the team, to help you get in touch with us and make sure that we get your questions answered and maybe help guide you down this interesting road of intelligent intranets. So I'm Michael Van Cleve, been with Planet for coming up on 12 years. My background is in development as well as collaboration workloads within Office 365. I'm working as the pre-sales architect and architect within the collaboration field. So what we're going to talk about is essentially what is an intelligent intranet. This is going to get, I wouldn't say down into the weeds, but it is going to get further down than probably what some people expect. We're going to talk about the differences between the classic experience versus the modern experience that has evolved in 365 over the period of just the last few years. We're going to go through a demo, which I'm going to just point out a few facets related to what SharePoint can do to help you create this intelligent internet, as well as foster a sense of community and culture, especially in the times where right now, a lot of us are remote or may not all be connected directly in an office to our colleagues. And then we're going to go through what it takes to build an intelligent intranet, some of the various different things you need to think about, how to go about the process. So again, just to be very clear, we're going to get into what SharePoint can do for you and how that interacts with Teams and things of that nature. But then also what we're going to do is display some of the features. And then from that, get into the overall process, the high level process that kind of keeps you on the path to building a successful intelligent intranet. So the question obviously is, what is an intelligent intranet? Well, you'll see here that we specify this built on modern SharePoint Online. And the reason for that is the features and functionality that are in the modern site collections, as well as the way that you create your organization within SharePoint, really helps build out what an intelligent intranet is. It's available everywhere. It utilizes the communication site templates, modern site templates, as well as modern lists and libraries. So if you are still in the classic experience, all is not lost, but you do need to make that jump to the modern experience to really, I guess, take advantage of the features that is now available in the modern side to build an intelligent intranet. As I mentioned, it does use multiple Office 365 services. This includes Teams. Teams is really that single pane of glass for your organization. And we want to reduce your users' need to jump between various different places to get the information they need. So when we can combine Teams as well as SharePoint to put this intranet out to your organization, people feel like they're more connected and it makes less context switching. It also focuses the shift of the corporate environment to more personalized content. And when we get down into more of the mechanics of it, I'll explain how this works. So what is the need, right? Ultimately, you can read all these, but where it comes down to is users feeling connected, feeling that they're part of the culture, that they have a voice, that they know where to go to find the information they need. We always talk about users being efficient and effective. that will drive profitability. That will drive the ability to get things done faster. When people have to go and search for information, company news, newsletters, even connecting to the executives or the senior management, that's a high priority for a lot of people in the organization to feel like they're part of that organization, especially in the times we are in now, where we're not sitting in the office. We need to be able to understand how the company is growing, what they're doing, what the mission is, and everything else. So I'm not going to read through each one of these. These are just some of the numbers that have been pulled together to help, you know, give you the, I guess, for lack of better words, the impetus or the ammunition to really drive to providing this for your users and the people that, again, you're depending on to get things done quickly or be part of that culture. Continuing the needs, really what it does, again, is keep everyone connected. We're far afield. Ultimately, Planet, we have a lot of our consultants are not in the office. They are spread across the country, various different states. Even though they might be part of a specific region, they may not even be in that region. A great example, myself, I live in Colorado, but I work with Eastern clients on the East team. So with that, I need to take part in the East team information and everything else that's going on, even though I'm not located on the East Coast, right? Also, you need to make it easy for people to contribute, to foster that culture of inclusion and empower what they're asking for and get ideas of what their needs are. So with this, ultimately what you're providing is that, I guess for lack of better terms, a very widened approach to gaining your user's perspective and ideas. You also have the ability to really align the organization around your vision, mission, strategic priorities, and communicate that. So everyone's on the same page. Everyone's rowing the boat in the same direction. No one's going off on their own little tangents, right? So some of the content and some of the issues that a lot of organizations run into is the curated content. A lot of times intranets are created and then they stagnate. What you want to do is create a personalized and branded destination, something that really speaks to the type of organization you are, what your goals are, how they're included. You really want to reinforce the identity and mission, right? And have those things front and center for your users so that they understand how they fit in the organization as well as the newest information that's coming out. I mentioned earlier, having something like an executive area where the executives are, letting people know how things are going, what the current strategic needs are, where the organization is really focusing. It's empowering. It helps them understand, and it makes them feel a lot more integrated into the company when they are part of that conversation. There are other things like dashboards that the intelligent intranet uses. And we'll show this a little bit in the demo, but with the dashboards, as well as news and events and articles and things like that, they can be done in a low or no code sort of situation where it doesn't take a specific skill set to develop these and push them out to the audience. And speaking of audiences, you can even target these to specific audiences so that it's more, meaningful to the users that are actually coming to your intranet, and they get the information they need and not information that really does not apply to them. The other thing about targeting, and I'll mention this here, is it within the intelligent intranet as well as modern intranet, you have the ability to target navigation. So again, if you do have an organization that has frontline workers, or if they are part of different divisions, or whatever the case might be, or any communities that they might take part in, they see that. They don't see things that are not specific to them or a waste of maybe real estate inside of your intelligent intranet, so that they don't get confused. Less is more in many cases. The whole KISS principle applies here. Keep it simple, keep it targeted, make it meaningful. So the benefit that you have here, especially if you're in the 365 environment, is it's built on SharePoint. SharePoint has been, it's had a long journey since the early 2000s, specifically 2001. With that, it has continually upgraded, created new features, new things that you can use that will actually make your job much easier to provide this intranet. You can extend things on your internet with apps such as Power Apps. If you do have development contingent, SPFX solutions, as well as things like Viva Engage and Yammer. The other thing I'm going to talk about too that I didn't include here, it's just kind of a tangent, is going to be Viva Connections, something that's very easy to implement if you have a modern internet today that can be done very quickly and provides a huge impact to your organization. That in the future could be a potential another session here, and we can talk through that. But if you do have interest before that, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to walk you through the benefits as well as what it takes to actually get there. Also, if you are in the situation where you do have a modern intranet and you have an existing information architecture as well as site structure, you can use it. It's not useless. You don't have to rebuild anything, right? There might be modifications that come up based on some of the planning stuff we're going to talk about at the end of this engagement here, this presentation. But at the same time, it does allow you to modify very quickly and get out to production very fast to really include those users and the people that you're targeting. The best part of all, with everything in 365, all of the security is integrated. With that, anything that you do related to Active Directory groups, the dynamic groups that you have, or even specific security related targets within SharePoint or Teams, it comes through. It's all integrated across all the workloads. So again, you may be situated very well and very quickly you can get up to speed, or you may have to make some few modifications, but it's a lot better than having to rebuild from scratch. So who gets it? Meaning, who has the availability to do this? If you're in Office 365 with any sort of SKU, storekeeping unit, with SharePoint Online, you get it, right? This is available in SharePoint 2019. However, with that, there are some features that you're not going to find in 2019 that we're going to talk about here. And that's when we're speaking about Viva and things of that nature. But there is this availability within the subscription edition as well. If you are doing some sort of hybrid SharePoint, that's fine. But ultimately, at some point, if you choose to actually put this up in the cloud, you can actually find this more far afield than what you would be behind your firewalls and everything else, where everyone has to get to it, possibly by getting through a firewall or through VPN. So with that, this lends itself to be a more of a product of something that people can get to even when they're on the road or at a conference or going to a client or something along those lines. So you want to make this available, easily available to your users. Okay, classic versus intelligent. I mentioned there is a difference. If you've been in 365 for a very long time, or if you have upgraded from an on-premises version that was not set up with modern and you move it to 365, then you're in classic mode, which isn't bad, but eventually classic mode will go away. And with that being said, it's something that is not worth investing in because Microsoft's not investing in it, right? This is not going to be something that's going to be turned off tomorrow, but at the same time, you don't want to get caught behind the 8 ball. So the faster you make that jump to a modern intranet or the modern features within 365, the better position you will be to actually deliver an intelligent intranet. So with that, what we're looking to do here is provide a consistent and modern look. Now, you might have that in Classic, but the Classic version of the intranet was really difficult for organizations to put out there due to the fact that it required some in-depth knowledge of SharePoint related to things like master pages, page layouts, publishing features, the different web parts, and things to that nature. Not only that, but the Classic was never really responsive. So if you built out this beautiful intranet, if someone tried to get to it from, say, a tablet or maybe even a phone, it didn't really collapse down on itself in a meaningful way, and it's very difficult to navigate it. When you go to the modern skill set, there's this, or excuse me, the modern look and feel, you're going to get a shift in the skill set. No longer will you need to have that in-depth knowledge. It's more along the lines of using a browser editor to create this beautiful intranet that people will like to go to and get their information. User adoption, it will actually increase because it does look more modern. And not only that, but it's easier to navigate. And it's easier for your organization, the people that are putting the information out, the news articles, the events and things of that nature, it's easier for them to do that. It's integrated. It's very simple. Ease of maintenance, again, just what I was talking about, is you don't need to have that in-depth knowledge of SharePoint or HTML or anything else that's going to make it difficult to keep this up to date and interesting. So again, from that perspective, you keep it up to date and interesting, user adoption goes up, it's easier to maintain, everyone is happy. This also feeds into less reliance on IT. Usually those skills that I was just speaking about a moment ago, it required them to be involved. Where now it could just be a content owner that goes in, puts together a nice news article or some event or something along those lines, and they don't need any specialized knowledge. They just need to know how to actually create a new page, put some content in there, some pretty pictures, format it the way they want, all very easy to do. With that comes the flexibility, simplicity, the rapid modernization and agility that the organization needs in an intranet. This should not be hard. If it's hard, it's not going to work. And not only that, but if it's hard, you're not going to keep it up to date, right? So just a classic intranet sort of things. If you're not sure what intranet you have, this is kind of some of the key points or things that you would look for. One, does it take really some in-depth SharePoint focused development and knowledge? If it does, you're probably on the classic intranet, excuse me. With that, classic tooling. How do you have to make those changes? Are you using SharePoint Designer? Are you having to modify master pages and page layouts? Do you have to have that skill set of CSS, JavaScript, and HTML? If so, if any of these are ringing any bells with you, you're more often than not in the classic intranet. And again, that's not a bad thing, but it is going to be an older technology, and we want you to get to the next level and be prepared for the future. Also, this is a big one right here, site architectures. The previous best practice was to create an intranet with subsites. As we all know, if you're a part of any organization, organizations change. And either departments, divisions will either expand or collapse or change the names, who runs what and how. And with that, subsites are very locked in. It's very difficult to make changes to that structure that are supposed to really fit the organizational structure of the organization itself. So anytime an organizational structure changes, it's difficult to come out of these subsites. It's difficult to make those changes. So what Microsoft did is they created the modern intranet experience. So with this, you're going to see kind of this idea flipped on its head. You don't need SharePoint focused knowledge. You just need to know how to use SharePoint, but you don't need the different sorts of tooling. If you look at modern tooling here, everything can be done in the browser. Theme generator, that again is something that you can create the theme through an internet-based tool and then apply to your intranet. It's very easy to do. You don't have to deal with master pages and page layouts. If you're not sure kind of what type of templates you want or the site designs that you want and things of that nature, there is a patterns and practices site that has quite a few that you have available to you that you can start from. Change the colors, change the formatting a little bit, and you're good to go. It doesn't take an act of Congress per se to get IT involved to build this stuff for you. You can do this on your own, right? As far as the modern architectures, how this changed is now what Microsoft wants you to do, the new best practice, right? There's always a newer best practice, is utilize site collections. And those site collections become their own little component that can then be added as an associated site to the intranet hub. So where you see hub and associated site, you might have heard it as hub and spoke. Ultimately, it comes down to all your content specific to that part of the organization is captured in one site collection. And then it is essentially tied to the hub, and it makes it easier for the organization to change as organizations do. So if something needs to be split apart or come together, totally fine. If you want to reassign a sub-site collection, I'll call it a sub-site collection because it's not the main hub, then what you can do is you can reassociate that and relate that to a different hub site if that is what you would like to do. We see this a lot in organizations that are very large, that have maybe different divisions or multiple agencies, where, again, things move around. So we want to be able to make it easier for you to change that structure with ease. Also, with the modern internet, it is mobile first. I mentioned that when you had the classic experience, it was not going to be responsive. It was harder to get around on a smaller form factor. That smaller form factor, we need to collapse that information down so that people can scroll or they can navigate it very easily, be it a tablet or a phone. So everything Microsoft is doing right now in 365 is mobile first. It has to be responsive. It has to actually be able to collapse and reduce so that it makes it better for those smaller form factors. Also, with the internet everywhere, comes in Viva connections with things like global navigation, inclusion into Microsoft Teams. This, again, gives people the ability to have the Teams client on their phone. They can go to the internet very quickly, or tablet even. And with that, it makes them, again, not have to switch between multiple apps or multiple things to get to where they need to go to get the information they need. As well as modern listen libraries, they're actually much nicer now. They're not just the tabular, flat, row and column based stuff. You can actually get colors. You can get different combinations of, calculated fields and things of that nature. Very slick stuff. It kind of brings those lists and libraries alive. So with that, it makes it more palatable to people that are more, design oriented. They like to see things. They like to see colors. They're just not flat, white, and black. Also, the community support. Again, patterns and practices have some of the modern search solution features that you may be used to from the classic. So with that, you can rebuild the SharePoint search to look just like classic, but now in a modern fashion. So you'd have faceted navigations, things of that nature. There is a fantastic 40 web parts area, as well as the lookbook. If you have not been to the lookbook, it is beautiful. If you need a place to start with your branding or design or ideas of how to format pages and things of that nature, they have a long list of various different things that you can target, apply it to your current intranet, to your current environment, and then manipulate it into something that works for you. You don't have to start from scratch or a blank canvas. Start from something that looks good. You can change the colors and then go in and start formatting the content. It's very quick to production that way. So some of the intranet capabilities. Again, we talked about hub and associated sites. What this also provides you is a roll-up. So in these associated sites where it is more controlled by the part of the organization that has the content and experience and the people that are supposed to be knowledgeable in those areas, you can roll up things like news, events, and things of that nature, right? So now not everybody needs access to the hub site to publish news and articles and things of that nature. What it comes down to is they can do that in their site where it is pertinent to their part of the organization, But if it is something that should be rolled up to the hub that the rest of the organization needs to see, it can be rolled up and syndicated there. Also, audience targeted content and navigation. Again, we talked about audience targeting. If you're not familiar with it, it's pretty much taking the navigation or the content and supplying it with a list of users that should see it. Now, again, this is very important for organizations that have various types of users. Frontline workers, people in different divisions, things of that nature. We don't want them to come to the intranet and see clutter. We want them to see things that are important to them. Where you might have an area that is, specific forms for the whole organization. Let's call it expense report, time off request, things like that. Great, everybody sees that. But if it's something specific that only a certain group of users see, you can utilize your Active Directory groups to really contain that navigation or that content so that only those people see it. There are site designs out there. We talked about the various different site designs that you can get in PNP as well as from the lookbook. Also, compliance. Everybody I know that I work with is always harping on compliance. With that, again, compliance can be applied to any of the areas within the SharePoint environment, and you control, what pieces of content are going to fall under your compliance. You can integrate Power Platform, workflows, custom Power Apps that give you a solution. In case of Planet, I'll give you a great example. We have a leave request Power App that we kick off from our intranet. We put in the dates and times and who our manager is and all the other stuff, which again, this was built a long time ago, but has served us for probably the last 6 years. And what it does, it goes through that process of notifying and getting approval by the manager, as well as telling any of our project managers that if we're a part of a project, then it tells them, hey, so-and-so has been approved for vacation on these times. So it keeps everyone informed. The various different page templates you have available to you. No longer are we using page layouts. The page itself, you can sit there and make the various different sections and rows and things of that nature and create it as custom as you want without having to get down and dirty into code or publishing anything out or having to get IT involved. I do recommend going to the PNP PNP templates, excuse me. It does give you a wide variety of things you can do from pages to designs and things of that nature. The other big benefit, we know that when you take and create a site that gets related to a hub, that sometimes if you desire, you have to go in, if you choose not to roll down those permissions, you have to add permissions to that site itself. Well, now you have the ability to synchronize to those permissions or synchronize those hub permissions down to the associated sites. What that will get you is the ability to go ahead and add that associated site to the hub, and it will automatically inherit those permissions like we used to see in the subsites. And what this does for you is it makes it easier to go to your user base with a production intranet without having to worry about going and adding the right people or making sure that everyone has access, right? We don't want to exclude anybody. We do want to protect the stuff they shouldn't see, but at the same time, we don't want to go through the hassle of having to replicate that every time we attach an associated site to the hub. All right, so let's go through a quick demo here. And what I'm going to show you here is essentially our demo lab. So you'll see a lot of stuff going on here. So I did tell you keep it simple, but we also use this for proofing out a lot of different things within different client scenarios. So one of the things that I want to show you is while this is very vanilla, you do have the ability to change the colors and everything else, right? Now that would be coming from something like the lookbook or going to the theme generator, putting in the colors of your organization, and you just apply it by going to change the look here. Where is it here? I don't want to apply a site template. Set information maybe. Nope, sorry. Oh, change the look right there. So up here, you have the ability to create a different or choose a different theme. If you do use a custom theme, it will show up further down in these sections. We don't have a custom theme applied right at this moment, but you do have the ability to apply any of these things that are in a box, or if you do create one, it will show up. Now, that does take some PowerShell to apply, but at the same time, it's very easy to do. The header, you can change this header up here. Do you want it compact, standard, extended, things of that nature? So again, you get a situation where you don't have to go to any sort of master page to make these changes. It's all done right here. Navigation, you can actually choose different navigations, mega menu or cascading. The mega menu is very similar to what you've probably seen on many sites on the internet, where it's a larger, has bold headers, have little sub headers or sub items to the headers. The cascading is just going to be what we were used to within SharePoint, right? All right, so I'm going to, if I can hit the right side of my mouse, I'm going to jump out of here and take you on to the page. So previously, when you created a page layout, it was an area that was set. You could add web parts to it. You couldn't change the dimensions of the columns. You couldn't change how many rows you had. It was very fixed position. With the pages now, there we go. You can see we've got these little areas that you can actually create new sections or, add new columns inside of here. You can add new web parts. You can edit these various areas with background color and so on and so forth. So where you can see that this is a section of the page, we also have this other side over here, which is more the right-hand nav or information that we're looking to do, right? So you can actually separate this into as many columns as you want. I wouldn't expect you're going to go more than 3, but at the same time, you can make, more of left-hand nav, right-hand nav, all full field, whatever the case might be. When you get to that, that's again where you start to add the modern web parts. Now, one thing you do need to know when you're coming from Classic to modern, not all of the web parts that you would find in Classic are going to be modern web parts that you're going to find. There's certain web parts that were deprecated and do not transition over. Because of the fact that they were very locked into the Classic style of development and they weren't responsive or whatever the case might be. But you do have a long list of things that are out of the box, as well as if you do choose to create a custom one, it would show up here. As well as, if I don't think we have it turned on here, but you do have other things that you can purchase if you're in a commercial or a GCC moderate environment. You can get things off of the SharePoint store that might fit your needs as far as the web parts. Now, again, I must mention, some of those web parts that may not be found here, you can find community built and supported through PNP. So please definitely take a look there, because again, these are not all your options. You do have other options out there. You may just have to have them integrated into your tenant. Okay. So with this, again, you can see that things are built out. I'll talk about this dashboard here in a moment, but these are very easy to put together and make look pretty and add color and things to that nature. It doesn't take someone with code or HTML or JavaScript or anything to that nature to create this type of experience. Again, this is a very vanilla experience. I don't expect yours to look this vanilla, but at the same time, you don't need expertise to do this, right? So let's go ahead and republish this. So with that, the other thing that I want to mention here, and I know this is a little off topic, and this is the tangent I was telling you about with Viva Connections, is one thing that a lot of users complain about when we engage with them is, I go to the intranet, I go to a site, and then all of a sudden I get lost. I don't know where I need to go back to and things of that nature. There's 2 things that you can do here. One, a global navigation. When you create a hub and associated site model, that global navigation follows the user. The other benefit to the modern experience is if you turn on or use the Viva Connections, what you'll find is you get this global navigation. This icon can be changed to wherever you want. And if you look at it, it's the similar global navigation I have up here to where if I'm in any site within the tenant that is modern, even if I'm not in the hub and spoke or hub and associated site model, this follows me. This is going to be on every modern site, be it a team site, communication site, so on and so forth. So with this, if I do go to a site that's not within the intranet, I want to get back to the intranet, I can create this so that they can get back very quickly. The other benefit, I mentioned this earlier, is if you do have the need to, again, target specific audiences, all of these are audience targeted. So, or you can have it audience targeted. It's not audience targeted by default. You got to turn it on. But when you do that, you can have this long global navigation, but depending on your membership as a user, you only see the links that are specific to you. With that, it makes it more palatable, easier to navigate. You don't get lost. You don't have to shuffle through any of the noise that you might find in most intranets. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about related to Viva Connections, and again, I know this is kind of a little bit more than you probably asked for, is you have this dashboard, and I'll talk about that in just a moment as far as how to make changes here. But this dashboard, what it does is it provides you the ability to create these different cards that will allow you or the user to get to things very quickly. And with that, it could be, that leave request that I was talking about. It could be keeping track of approvals that you might have in the queue. We do, as an example, here's a great one. Within Planet, we have this PATS program. And what it is when someone does something that is great, they helped you out, or you want to compliment them or recognize them, you can submit a PAT. So clicking this will take them to that application. They can go ahead and fill that out, send it. They don't have to go searching for where that application is. They don't have to use any of the favorites within their browser and bookmark it and things of that nature, right? So with Viva Connections dashboard, how do we build it? This is the dashboard. If you have the administrative ability to get here, as most content editors would, you can go ahead and create these cards very quickly. Again, it's just like what we're working with within the editor environment within the pages. It does first come up as mobile. So if you are on a mobile phone, you can kind of see what it looks like. You can see how it lays out. Order of importance goes top to bottom, left to right. So when you're configuring your dashboard, in this case, like what we see here, it's going to go ahead and fit itself into that section, as we mentioned on the right-hand side of the intranet that we're showing. And what it does is it collapses all these and stacks them left to right, top to bottom. So what I tell my clients is high priority stuff, top left, the lower priority stuff down here to the bottom right. And these can be targeted. So again, if you've got the need to push certain apps or links or places that people need to go, they can be targeted to those specific people. So again, they don't have all this noise. They just see the things that are important to them. All right, so let's go ahead and republish. And let's go back to the landing here. Okay, so how does this fit into Teams? With Teams, we know that, again, it's that single pane of glass, that unified communication place. We get our chats, we get into our channels and projects and things of that nature. We can see our OneDrive files and our calendar and so on and so forth. We have our meetings there. Well, with Viva Connections, you have the ability to take and publish this to a Microsoft Teams environment. And what that does is it will actually provide you just like this is, a pinned app on the left-hand side of the Teams editor, or excuse me, the Teams client. And with that, they can click it and they will see the intranet right there in Teams. They don't have to go to SharePoint. They don't have to exit the area that they're in, and it becomes a very quick, easy linked experience. The other benefit is, like we called this the landing, we can change the icon and we can change the picture as well as the name. Instead of it just saying global navigation, it could say the landing. We don't have that integrated here at this point, but it is the best way to push this out to your users, right? Okay, so as far as the intranet, and here we go. You do have the ability, again, to take and create any sort of messages, events, news articles, news and things of that nature that gets pushed up to the environment so that people can see it. Now, there's two things here. You can target them via audience targeting, or if that person, a person coming into the internet, does not have access to that site that is publishing that news article, it does not show up in the aggregated news area for them. So again, it uses that security mechanism in the background that SharePoint already has to provide a more targeted experience and more secure experience. If you do get in the situation where you want to have more than a few articles to show, just make it a bigger thing, or you'll get, again, that kind of that ability to go to the next article and things like that, that people can scroll through and see. Now, these are obviously going to be videos and things like that. You can integrate stream, you can do all sorts of things. But at this time, what we're doing is taking all these pieces of content that are far afield and bringing them into one place for users to get the most up-to-date targeted information based on who they are. Okay. If you do have, and this is what I also recommend to a lot of my clients, is there's always going to be those forms or things that people need to get to. It might be, how do I find my benefits? Where is the benefit information? Expense forms. What are policies and procedures? Things to that nature. That should be open to everyone in the intranet. If it is something from HR that's being, again, brought up, totally fine. You've got the hub and associated site architecture. You can make that relationship and put that site up here on the navigation where people can get to that kind of information, right? So again, for the people that should see, or for the things that everyone should see, make it easy for them to find on the navigation. It doesn't matter about the site structure anymore. It doesn't matter, where it lives, as long as they've got access to it. And it's easy to find within a few clicks. People get kind of, I wouldn't say freaked out, but they do get lost after a couple, 3 clicks. And it's not, again, it's not an intelligence thing. It's just, we are so programmed to get to something very quickly in this day and age. And with that, we want to make it easy for them to find. Okay, so let's go back to the PowerPoint here. There we go. Okay, so let's talk about the overall process. I know we got down in the weeds. We figured out the structure and everything else. And we talked about all the new and newfangled things and features. But how do you start? Well, Microsoft recommends 4 different areas to really start to focus in on. One is Explore. Next one is Align. Next one, Implement, and then Engage. So to explore, I mentioned this earlier. Go out to PNP, go to Lookbook, go to the various different things that will give you ideas of how to start. You do not have to start from blank canvas. It's way easier to start from something that you can poke holes in and modify to your needs. Also, get an understanding of what's coming up. Microsoft is very vocal about all these new features that are coming out. Example, Copilot for SharePoint. Those things are what's going to keep you in line with how the tenant is being pushed to the future. The faster that you can start to, implement the things that Microsoft's recommending, or the features that are going to get you the best path forward, the easier it is going to be to make this an easy situation for you to maintain and make valuable to your users. Also, YouTube's a great place. Microsoft has a ton of demos that are available for you just to kind of get your feet under you. If you don't know how to go in and change up a page or the theme or anything to that nature, it's very easy to find. They're not trying to hide this. They're not trying to, again, secret sauce this type of thing. They really want you to be knowledgeable and be available to make these changes and accept these features and future-proof what you have built. And they're trying to make that an easier situation for you all around. Align. This is probably the most important slide of this deck. We as technologists, we always feel like we know what our users need. We think we know how they do their job. We think we know what they need quickly and what should be important to them. But that's not necessarily the case. First and foremost, we need to get alignment from the stakeholders. Understand the need, who should be involved, as well as what do we want to communicate. Do we want the executives to have, a piece of this to where they're going to be publishing news or events and things like that to the rest of the user base? Who wants a piece of this pie so that they can communicate what the part of the organization is doing? Get their feedback, get them included. The best you can do is once you get buy-in from the pieces and parts of the organization, the more well-rounded this intranet will be and supply the information that the rest of the organization needs, right? Gather the requirements. As far as ask your users, what questions do you have? How do you get the information you get today? What do you feel like you didn't know and all of a sudden, someone was talking about it and it was a surprise to you? How would you like to see these communications and things to that nature, right? We want to know what the people want. If we give them what they want, or we give them a fast way to get to it and keep people in the know, the better cohesiveness you'll have of the organization and the colleagues that make it up. But also, it will make it so that, again, people will go to the internet to get this information. We want it to be that single point where people are getting the most up-to-date information that are, again, that is coming down the pipe as fast as business is moving. With the parts of the different segments of the organization that need different information, this again goes to the audience targeting. We want to get that information to the right people at the right time. We don't want to just blast them with a fire hose of all this information that they probably don't even care about if they're part of a whole different division, department, or whatever the case might be. The frontline workers have different needs than the information workers that have different needs than the executives. So let's give them that more targeted experience, make it more valuable to them, make it so they don't have to go and rifle through a whole bunch of stuff to find the answer to their question. Then you implement. You've gathered business goals. You know what solutions need to be out there. If you have, kind of like us, that have that employee recognition system, make it easy for people to get to. We want them to, pat those people on the back. We want to know that their recognition is being communicated to the people that they're recognizing, right? Maybe have a little area that does like a little profile on them. Hey, so-and-so, this is where they're from. This is what they did. This is their features and experiences and things of that nature that they can help with. Since we're all not in the office anymore, that's harder to do. So now we need the intranet to display that information. We need to, provide them the tools so that people feel part of the organization. The other portion here, and I mentioned again, the frontline workers, the information workers, the executives, we need to define those personas. What do they want? How is the agency segmented? How do we get them the information they need? How do we make it to where they're not just being inundated? You build these personas and you start to target those personas with the audience targeting and everything else that we were just talking about. It sounds like a lot. You're saying, Michael, you're killing me. This is going to take forever. Trust me, it does not take very long. With the experiences, really, you have the ability to do a single intranet for all, or some of my clients actually, as a great example, are state and local agency or they are states that have multiple agencies within the same tenant. Some of them have different intranets for the various different agencies. That's not a problem. It's able to be done. It's very easy to do. It just takes some thought. But you need to choose, what type of organization are you? Are you one that a single internet will fill your need? Or are you in the same situation that a state is in where it has multiple agencies, or maybe a university that has multiple schools? So again, based on who you are, where you're coming from, the type of organization you are, you might choose something different than someone else. Also, the templates and branding, they're easy enough to get to. They're easy enough to make changes to. You don't need to sacrifice your colors. You don't need to sacrifice anything to that nature. You do have some good options related to easily getting the templates and the brand pushed to the intranet. That shouldn't be something that dissuades you from publishing an intranet that, again, back in the day, everyone's like, but it looks like SharePoint. Yeah, but at the same time, we don't want to make it hard on you to go and change those colors and that brand and everything else. So now we're kind of in the middle where it doesn't necessarily look like SharePoint, but it's not going to be ultra customized to the point where you have to have a team of people to support it. And then engage. We talked about curate earlier, but engage is really going to be the area that we want to really get the various different stakeholders on board to create announcements, to create news, to create events. You also can bring in Viva Engage, which is Yammer, to foster those communities that help people understand or want to be part of a specific smaller community within the organization to go and take part, right? It might be for a volunteer, something like that, where they can go out and they can, pack boxes for the USAID or whatever the case might be, or, housing for or Habitat for Humanity or something like that, right? But again, these communities, they can be targeted to specific topics. And with that, people get involved. We want people to be involved. The insights, when you do get this up and you get it out to your user base, how do you know this being adopted? How do you know people are seeing it? Did you run a campaign to let people know it was even there? Because if you build it, they will come. If you try that as a strategy, it's not going to work very well. So with this, we want to use insights. Use the page metrics, take a look at, how many users you're getting, how many unique users, things of that nature. If you're seeing low numbers, let's make some changes. Let's do a campaign. Let's get people out there and to know about it, to understand that it's there, how it's going to help them, the what's in it for you, right? If you see high numbers, keep doing what you're doing. You might make little changes here and there, but keep pressing all the announcements, all the news, all the things that they need, and take feedback and continue to sharpen that blade, right? We want to make this the best possible experience for the users to get that buy-in, right? Now, one thing I didn't mention here, and it is something that Microsoft has put out, is another, it's not a feature of 365 at this time, but they do have a more page metric based system that's very similar to Google Analytics that you can apply. And that will give you even deeper understanding of where people are coming from, what they're, how long they're spending on pages, the clicks, and all the cool stuff that you see in like Google Analytics that you probably don't want to apply to 365, right? But now Microsoft does have a comparable tool that you can apply to your 365 environment that will give you that more in-depth information. If you're coming from an SSO background or something along those lines, it will definitely help get you the information that you want and need. Okay. I just threw a lot of information to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. I know your time is valuable. And if you have any questions, I've only got a few minutes before I have a hard stop, but I can answer a couple. And then if you do have any follow-up questions or you want to have a call or anything to that nature, please get a hold of Casey. We can definitely hook up that time and we can delve a little bit deeper into your situation and maybe start getting you down the path of having an intelligent intranet.
Thank you so much, Michael. And yet we will open up for questions if anyone has any. I know you only have a few moments, but we'll leave that time open for now. And if no one has any questions, we will make this presentation available via recording. And if you have questions, you can reach out to You Already Own It at go-planet.com. And we'll make sure to route you to the correct resource. And Michael mentioned, along with the intranet stuff that we spoke about today, also mentioned Viva. Viva is something that we have a lot of expertise in. And if that's something you're interested in, we have some You Already Own It sessions specifically targeted at that as well. So let us know if you're interested in that, and we'll be happy to facilitate. With that said, thanks everyone for their time, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very